Closed captioning for Lakeland Currents is supported by the Minnesota Department of Commerce, Telecommunications Access Minnesota, and Nisswa Tax Service. Nisswa Tax Service, tax preparation for businesses and individuals. Across from City Hall in Nisswa and online at nisswatax.com.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Lakeland Currents, where tonight we're talking about training innovations in education. I think it's a program that you're going to find very interesting, whether you're a student or an adult. It's a program that's really unique, and it's being piloted in a program here in Brainerd, Minnesota. And I'd like to introduce my guests first and find out who these folks are and what they're doing, and then we can talk about this pilot. To my immediate right is Abby Getz, who is a youth coordinator and a career advisor for rural Minnesota SEP. And we'll come back to you, Abby, to ask you what that is.
Sounds great.
And to her right is Steve Residual, who is the Brainerd High School superintendent. And to Steve's right is John Newhouse, who is the president of Lakeland Mold. And we'll come back and ask you what Lakeland Mold is, too. But maybe we could start with you, Abby. Just sure. What is Minnesota, or rural Minnesota SEP?
Well, we are a nonprofit agency that is in the northwestern portion of Minnesota, and we are housed locally here in the Brainerd Workforce Center along with the Minnesota Deed Office. And my position as the youth coordinator, I run the Youth Employment Program, which encompasses both the WIA Work Investment Act program and the Minnesota Youth Program, which is two different components of a getting kids out into the workforce and teaching them work skills and getting them short-term training and things like that to make them employable into their adulthood. And the new component of that is this Career Advisor Project, where I am working on a pilot project at the Brainerd High School in partnership with the Initiative Foundation and the Chamber. And we are there working with a group of students to help them get just kind of an idea of what they want to do after high school and kind of get some more footing about what their next step is going to be when they graduate this spring. And that's kind of where we're trying to bring in the National Career Readiness Certificate with that population.
Steve, maybe you could just give us a little bit of information about the Brainerd School District. How big of an area do you cover and how many schools are?
Be happy to, Ray, and thanks for having us here. The Brainerd Public Schools takes an area of 750 square miles into its service. And we're a pre-K-12 school district, 330 districts in Minnesota, and we have 6,800 kids. So we're about 30th or 31st, somewhere in that range of size of school districts in Minnesota. Pretty large outstate district. And in any one graduating class, we might have from 450 to 500 students. So we're very happy to be participants in this ACT Work Keys pilot program, and happy to be working with local partners in industry and in higher education, and with the Chamber and the Initiative Foundation and Rural Minnesota SEP to see if we can't help young people work to better define their skills and get better prepared for life after high school.
Before I introduce John, I need to say that one of our guests couldn't make it tonight, and he is Steve Lackner, who is a Human Resource Director for Lakeland Mold. And Steve lost his voice, but he said to be sure to tell you he's watching and to let his fans know he's sorry he disappointed them. John is the president of Lakeland Mold, and it's located here in Brainerd. John, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what is Lakeland Mold.
We're a manufacturer, Ray. We build molds that are used by our customers to build plastic parts for their customers. We're one of a number of manufacturers located in Brainerd and a number of manufacturers located in the Brainerd-Baxter areas. We've about 70 employees and look at those employees as assets. And so we're looking at this National Career Readiness Certificate as an asset that can be used to look for ways and means by which we can invest further in the skill sets of those employees.
So what we're talking about this evening is this certificate. It's called a National Careers Readiness Certificate, and it has a variety of different levels. And I think, Steve, you said you'd be good enough to kick it off and tell us what this certificate is. What does it mean?
Well, I'll give it a try and start with a comparison to the ACT that we now understand. At Brainerd High School, we might have 250 students in any graduating class who've taken the classic or the traditional ACT. which is an examination to get ready to go off to college or to higher education someplace. A few years ago, and I think it's 5 or 6 years old, the American College, the ACT Corporation, took on a workforce readiness test initiative, and they built a new kind of an ACT. And again, what we're about here with our pilot is to see if we can get 100 students who might not otherwise have taken the college-bound ACT, because we have about half of our kids who do that, to try and take the work readiness ACT in a pilot program with the help of a career advisor 2 days a week from rural Minnesota SEP. We're not quite to 100 yet, but we're approaching 70 students who will be in this first year of the pilot. We'll hope to run the pilot for 2 years, and to also work in concert with members of the chamber and leaders in different fields of employment around our area to bring awareness of this certification program and this new kind of an ACT. We think the ACT is a currency to go to college. Can it become can this new ACT become a currency to get into the workplace? Abby brought her own certificate in here.
This is actually your certificate, isn't
it?
Yes.
Yeah, and she's earned that certificate.
And it's gold.
She could take that certificate around to a number of employers across Minnesota and across the United States and say, I am qualified in areas of reading, reading to locate information, and with certain mathematical skills. And it's also a test which hints at some of the soft skills that HR departments have been looking for and talking to us K-12 institutions about as important to take out into the workplace. So we're excited about it.
For years, we've been hearing criticisms that education is not dealing with the workplace, that we're trying to train everyone in high school to go to college. And I think you should be applauded for doing something different. You're actually looking at another track for students who are not college interested, or maybe they're not college capable. Not everybody's capable to go to the college. So John, you're an employer, and if you're going to be a part of this pilot, what are some of the issues that as an employer you see that are problems when you hire new employees? Why is this of interest to you?
The first and foremost level of interest in this certificate is for us to take a look at our employee population right now. What do they need? What are their skill sets? But beyond that, Ray, what I think is going to come out of this, should it reach the level of success that we think or hope it is to identify those skills necessary for a student to come out of school and be prepared to enter our workforce. Each of the different types of employees that we have on board have different sets of skills that they have to have. Some of those we can train, we can teach them. Others, we're not prepared in the work world to train or teach some of the skills that are resident in the certificate, some of the math skills, reading skills. I mean, by the time that they reach us, they need to have those skills. Mm-hmm. If they don't, they're not going to be successful in the type of business world that we exist in now. They're going to get left behind. They'll fall by the wayside. So for many of the employees that we would hire, or potential employees, they don't need to have some of the skills that we will teach them. We will train them. But until that void is filled, until we can identify what they need, and I think that the certificate does a very good job of starting that process, but until we can get that identified and addressed, we've still got a gap. We still have a skill gap that exists for the business world.
And Abby, these are not just for kids in school, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. We have people here at the local workforce center all the way up through retirement age that have come in to take the test. And actually this last week we just passed the 100 certificate benchmark in that we gave out our 100th NCRC certificate to just local workforce people who are coming in and requesting to take the test, or they might be in part of another one of our programs and they've been asked to participate in this by their job counselor. But I mean, we have just as many what we call universal customers who are just coming in and requesting this certification for use to make themselves more marketable to employers when they're trying to compete in this very competitive job market that we have right now.
One of the things that scares the bejeebers out of people if they've been out of the workforce or out of college or high school for a long time is taking a test.
Absolutely.
What is it that they are tested for, and what kind of levels of competence do they get? What kind of, I know there's a gold certificate, is what you have, and you said there's actually another level above that, and there's levels below. What are those levels? What do they mean?
It starts out with the level 3, which is the bronze certificate, and that's kind of like an entry-level workforce type job. It might be a server at a restaurant or a cashier at a retail store, kind of those entry-level jobs. The next step up would be like the silver certificate, which is the level 4. And the silver is a little bit more, maybe needs like a college certificate or some more training, technical program, short-term training. And then the gold certificate is the level 5, and that is kind of even a step above the silver, where maybe you need an actual like 2-year degree or something like that to get into those types of jobs. And then the very top level, the level 6, is the platinum certificate. And they kind of break it down by how many jobs in their database you would be qualified to work at. So I believe the platinum they have rated at like 99% of their jobs. So basically any job that the ACT has profiled, you would be qualified to work in. Now, this doesn't necessarily take the place of other certifications that a job might require. So just because I score at the level that says I would be good at being an EMT doesn't mean that I don't have to go get the EMT training. I would still need that training, but this certificate just shows me and shows the employer that I have the skill set, that I am capable to complete the training and to be successful on the job.
So it's really predicting success too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
How do they take the test? What do they do? Where do they go? If they're not in a school setting, where do they go to take the test?
I believe that all of the workforce centers across the state of Minnesota are now offering this in some capacity. And here in Brainerd, they would just come in to our local workforce center, which is in the community services building downtown here, and express an interest, and then they would be matched up with somebody who would get them started. There's 2 components to getting the NCRC credential, the first of which is the Key Train, which is a program that ACT has developed, and we start out with a pre-assessment. So they take all 3 subject areas, they take a test that's like kind of a practice test that assesses what their current skill level is. So maybe at the practice test stage in Key Train, they score a 5 in reading, a 5 in math, and only a 3 in locating for information.
So those are your 3 areas.
Correct. And their certificate is going to be based on whatever their lowest skill area is. So if they really want to work to get that level 3 up to where the level 5s are, or maybe they want to work on all 3 subject areas and really strive for a 6 because they want that platinum certificate, then KeyTrain will assign them some remediation modules that they can do on a computer. Anywhere there's internet access, they can come back to the Workforce Center to do it on our computers, use the public library, a computer at home, wherever they can access the internet. And they can work through these modules at their own pace and really build that skill level up to where they feel they need to be, or maybe where their career goal is. Maybe they've already identified that I want to be an RN, and we know that an RN needs a gold certificate. So they can work to get those things up to the gold level so that they can meet that skill need.
If you got to the gold certificate and you still needed more training, would you advise them of what to do to get that training if it's beyond the things they could do on the internet?
Absolutely. And in fact, if somebody scores like around the level 3 area, we may even refer them over to adult basic education, where they can go and actually get teacher assistance to work through the KeyTrain modules and maybe some other lesson planning and things to find out where their deficits are, because maybe they aren't self-driven enough to be able to do these modules on their own. So we do have a referral process in place to work with the local adult basic education to get these people to those next levels.
So the Initiative Foundation is very high on this particular partnership. What is it that you're doing in your partnership with the high school students? What's going on?
Well, I want to say that one of the things we're hopeful for is raising aspirations of kids, of students, young people who might not otherwise say, I know what I want to do, or I have a plan to go on to university. Classically in Minnesota, we send a lot of kids out with their high school diploma, and 60 to 80%, depending upon the community that you are in, will declare that they have a plan to go off to university or to higher education. And employers are telling us that kids need more skill. But we're also hearing the message that they may not need to go to the classic 4-year institution and get a degree to be productive members of a local workforce. So how do we find ways to talk to, John used the word middle majority. How do we find ways to talk with the students who are not aspiring right now to take the college ACT and go off to school, and yet are still being told that they have to have a certain level of skill and they need to have a willingness to learn, because every industry is changing so rapidly and demanding more of their employees, and our productivity has to stay up there with the rest of the planet. So we're hopeful that this is another way to talk to a sector of our high school kids. The 70 who are in the pilot right now are not students who are classically taking that other ACT to go off to college. So we're hopeful to get their attention and see what the result yields, as far as this test being a way to say, have you thought about this as a possible career? You know, ACT puts a lot of career awareness products in the hands of school districts across Minnesota. There's an 8th grade ACT product that we get for free. There's a 10th grade that we use at Brainerd High School and have for years. Kids take career interest inventories, but as they get closer to that junior and senior year and exit, we kind of fall off and don't do as much with them unless they self-declare. And so this is another way to corral a certain group of young people and say, you know, we'd really like you to take a look at this and see if it could be helpful for you, see if it could be helpful for the connections that we want to grow with manufacturers, IT employment, medical employment, some of the industries that are growing rapidly and doing well and having a hard time finding people right here in our region. We've got to make better connections, and it'll help us speak better with the college as well.
So you have 70 students in the pilot, and are they all grades? Or
No,
are they
they're only
seniors?
seniors.
They're all seniors.
All seniors?
Yes.
All seniors.
And if this is successful, how are you going to measure success? What are the things you're looking at as calling this successful?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just a matter of being able to talk to the kids and create that dialogue of, what are you going to do next year? What are you going to do come June once you graduate? What's your next step? And a lot of times they haven't even considered that. And, you know, we're into the last semester of their high school career. So it's a little scary to think that they haven't planned past May 31st or whatever day graduation is this year to think about what that next step is going to be. So that's kind of the initial part.
And part of our agreement with the funding that we've received from the Initiative Foundation to the Chamber and the support we've received from SEP is that we will be talking to the kids in a formalized survey near the end of the line to say, has this affected your search? Has this affected your vision of what you might want to take a look at? And then there'll be hopefully some proof in the pudding at the end of the line with the tests that they take to say how many of students in this particular population were able to score at a bronze or better, and what does that mean for them? And then another hopeful measurement of ours is to see what kind of interest we can gauge in a dialogue with employers in the region to say, can we interest you in the possibility of taking job shadow relationships that we already have through the Bridges partnerships that have evolved through the Chamber and workforce development projects of years past, and say, can we capitalize on some of those connections now, and can we translate certificates into a greater awareness for employers and possibility of maybe interview for some of these students.
I think, Ray, that part of the answer to your question of what's going to be the proof of how successful this is going to take some time, because the business community doesn't necessarily recognize this NCRC as a statement of credibility, or even recognize it as a statement at this point in time. So what Steve says is very true. That is, the business community, and the Chamber has been involved in some recent conversations around this particular topic, but the business community needs to know what an NCRC certificate really means. And once the business community begins to understand it, then there will be a connection that will be the final proof of how well this program operates, because you can get the students dressed up well, but if the employers aren't interested in that style of dress and they don't hire them, what good was that? Right. And so there's two sides to this coin. So I'm obviously speaking from the business person's point of view, saying, I believe in it. We wouldn't be doing the prototype that we're doing at Lakeland Mold if I didn't, but I'm just one member of the business community here. So we have not an uphill battle so much as a challenge to get this instrument out into the field.
Now, this is a national effort, isn't it? It's occurring in other states besides Minnesota.
It certainly is. Juniors in the state of Illinois are attached to this program already. There's been dialogue in Wisconsin, and the Iowa Workforce Development Initiative has also taken on the ACT Work Keys as a matter of interest for Iowa students. Mm-hmm. So there are some national employers too who, from the business perspective and the business side, have taken a look at this and started to incorporate it into processes within their own industries. I believe that even some of the state-run agencies, the Department of Transportation is actively using the work keys as a screener or as some sort of benchmark for entry-level employment. So there are places in the country where this new product is known. And I'm repeating myself here, but the thought of this as a currency that families can understand, businesses might be able to understand, and the young people who we send off after 13 years of public schooling might also understand.
John, I know Lakeland Mold has been involved in a lot of educational initiatives. I consider your company one of the leading companies in the Brainerd area for doing innovative things. Are you going to be taking any of these students, these 70 students? Are you going to be involved with any of those directly?
Yeah, we haven't made any commitments. We don't know the students that are going through this process. But the example that I can give you to answer part of your question, Ray, is that we have some students that are interns from the college. They're coming out of the welding program, and they're working part-time for us. And they have a couple of them have taken this test. And so we see a linkage between perhaps the students at the high school taking the curriculum or having this embedded somehow in their curriculum, maybe doing some work study and some internships or something of that sort, and Lakeland Mold would be delighted to be a participant in something of that nature.
I can appreciate the challenge of having a student go through and getting a certificate and taking it to an employer who has never heard of it. Absolutely. And saying this doesn't mean anything to us, you know, go somewhere else. So it's a sell, isn't it, for not only the students and the people partaking in it, but for that business community. Is there anybody championing this in Minnesota to the business community?
Well, I personally have become acquainted because I sit on the Rural Minnesota SEP Workforce Council. And I heard about this well over a year, perhaps a year and a half ago. So it became an attractive instrument to me back then. DEED, Department of Employment and Economic Development, has become a champion, and that's how we have become involved as a prototype or a benchmark. So from a statewide point of view, I think that DEED is getting behind this. Now there's the chamber here, as I mentioned before, has become interested. Partly because the same dilemma that we have at Lakeland Mold is a shared dilemma with other chamber members. How can we find skilled employees, both fresh out of school as well as those that might come through SEP, dislocated workers, and with this sort of certificate, that to me is going to mean a lot in terms of their qualification.
Is there a site or a place that people can go online to learn about this?
They can go to the ACT site, and there's links straight from there to the Work Keys program, or in some places it's referred to as the National Career Readiness Certificate. And if you follow those links under like the workforce aspect of ACT, you will find a database that tells you, what kind of jobs are associated with the different test scores that you would receive on the certificate. You'll find testimonials from different employers nationwide who have incorporated it into their companies, and just a lot of more in-depth information about what it is and how you can use it. And we're really working hard with the people who we get these certificates to teach them how to market it with themselves and how to use it as a tool in their toolkit as a job seeker to set themselves apart from other job seekers and other applicants, because we know that especially in this area it's a very competitive job market right now, and there's a lot of applicants for every job opening, so you need to know how to set yourself apart from those other people, and we hope that this is one way that people will be able to do that.
You're the frontline contact with students, aren't you?
Absolutely, yep.
What's their response to this?
They have actually received it really well. They really like the computer-based learning. They really like being able to engage and seeing how it could fit into their projected career path. And I'm excited to actually get some of these kids to get the final certificate product so that they can have that sense of accomplishment, and they can have that thing that tells them that this is what I am and this is what I can do, and something that validates all of the effort and knowledge that they have.
Is this a one-year project, or is it going to go on after this year?
Well, we're committed to at least a 2-year pilot for Brainerd High School, and we're hopeful that the Initiative Foundation, the Brainerd Lakes Chamber, will continue to support for the second year, and they have made statement to that effect thus far. Again, John said it a couple of minutes ago. Some of this work is going to take time to expand awareness, and 2 years is really only a beginning.
It's a short time.
And I am hopeful for a day when this initial pilot might have a broader piece in the statewide dialogue. So I think it's important that someone stays at it for a little while and gives enough time for there to be some useful information at the end.
Again, it's called the National Career Readiness Certificate. It looks like really good stuff. I commend you for doing this. I think it's really been needed for a long time. Thank you for coming on Lakeland Currents. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having us.
Great fun.
You bet.
Yeah.
You've been watching Lakeland Currents, where we're talking about what you're talking about. I'm Ray Gildow. So long until next time.